What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the F124 Ferrari Driver Career Mode. Yes, we are back, finally, after the summer break for the Dutch Grand Prix. So yeah, finally back, of course. Summer break has been very long, and I immediately regretted taking so long to get back into the swing of things. So yeah, I did all 3 practice sessions as I usually do, and not feeling too confident with the car if I'm being 100% honest here. And we're going to get a new turbocharger in the car as well, just for a little bit of extra speed down the straights with our battery. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into qualifying. I'm honestly not expecting a great result this weekend. But who knows, maybe I can turn things around heading into qualifying.
No surprises if I tell you we're here in Holland at Zandvoort for the Max Verstappen celebration party. It's a quick track and perfect for high speeds, high stakes qualifying. Welcome along to the Dutch Grand Prix qualifying day.
Well, here we go as we are completing our outlap in the first segment of qualifying here on a glorious Saturday in the Netherlands. And I actually haven't done any sort of qualifying simulation in practice. I ran the soft tires for a few laps, but no real full feel just yet, as I just dipped the outside tire onto the grass there, as you can see. So already this lap is pretty much a write-off, as now we're going to lock up heading down into the very unique banked turn 3. I've always liked this circuit, Zandvoort, and it makes for a lot of unique overtaking opportunities. As now we're going to head down through the second sector and try to get as good of an exit onto this little back straight here. As you can see, I am wanting to turn in a little too early, not sure what about the handling of this car is so different from when we left in Belgium. Now we're gonna try not to lock up heading down into the chicane. Big long left-hander, and then we have a long right-hander. We just got to get the car planted on the exit. DRS wide open, and then we're gonna blast all the way down the main straight up to 8th gear. What's it gonna be? 6th fastest, so not that bad. We're behind Sonoda though, so I assume when everyone else completes their laps, we will definitely have to go back out for another run. Well, I've decided to go out very early here, so the track is not at its optimal point at the end of this session, as the car just really doesn't want to accelerate through that final corner, as I've seen on board with the Red Bull, for example. But now we're going to head down into turn 1. I wanted to get a clear track with no traffic, which looks like is what we're going to get, aside from the Sauber on track, but he's quite a ways ahead of us. So now we're going to try to get a optimized exit rather than entry to that corner. But yeah, we currently sit 17th. We're slower than Logan Sargent, so we need to get about a second up, I would say. We're I think 1.2 behind our teammate Charles Leclerc, and he has the fastest time at the moment. So there's a big old snap there, but we do manage to keep the car in check. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough. We might have to do a 3rd run in Q1, which is practically unheard of. And now we're going to head down towards the final corner. We need to make sure we're getting our foot planted as early as possible. So you can hear the car just shaking through that corner and bouncing violently. Doesn't want to accelerate, and now that's going to put us only 14th, so we only go up a handful of places. I think we need to do another lap if we want to get out of Q1. Well, I did decide to go out for another run, which we have comfortably the 2nd fastest car, so this should not be happening right now. But we're seeing another Hungary performance, it looks like, as now the cars are just going to come flooding out of the pit lane for their outlaps. So we need to make sure we're not getting caught up in any traffic. So we need to stay on the racing line as much as possible. Carry a little extra speed and we'll get a little bit of a slipstream from the Alpine there on the exit. And the straight line speed doesn't seem to be the best on this car. I think part of the reason why we're so slow is the setup. I didn't really get it in the window that I would like it by the time practice 3 rolled around. But it looks like I'm really starting to find the flow. Now, gonna go down an extra gear coming out of here just to get a little bit more revs on the exit. And now, as long as we don't get held up here, please, the Alpine needs to get out of my way as we lose a little bit of time there. So we almost made contact. Luckily, we don't. However, now, has that cost us a chance at getting out of Q1 and get onto the grass there? That's pretty much this lap ruined now. But now that's just going to be a slipstream for the Alpine behind us. Well, here at the end of Q1, we are certainly lucky to squeeze ourselves through. We managed to find the flow of the car a little bit more, but Zhou Guanyu, quickest at the end of Q1, so I'm not sure what is going on with that, but yeah, the Kick Sauber driver first, clear of Oscar Piastri by 2/10, so amazing stuff from him. Sergio Perez out again, and Zandvoort, I mean, it's just, he has to lose a seat at the end of the season. I mean, he come back from the summer break, freshly renewed contract, and Sergio Perez instantly is not performing. But also out in Q1, we have Logan Sargent, Valtteri Bottas, whose teammate is 1.8 seconds pretty much off of his teammate, so shocker there from the Finnish driver. And then Daniel Ricciardo not having a good run of it, and then Pierre Gasly. So both Haas cars make it through, and Alex Albon in the Williams. So looks like we might be able to just keep improving on our lap times, and we could be in the fight for the points positions today. Well, now I'm interested to see what Zhou Guanyu will be able to do in Q2, if that was just a one-off. Not really sure how he is so fast at the end of Q1, but now that is over through. So we're P11, not sure what Mark is talking about. We haven't even set a time yet. Now we're going to head up towards the line. It's been a decent lap, but nothing to write home about. Is here we're P11. We'll have to go out for another lap. I might add that this was a used set of tires. It was the ones that we did our first run of Q1 on. So I'm going to have to go back out on a fresh set, and hopefully we'll be able to get through to Q3. I don't want a repeat of Hungary. Well, this will be my final chance to progress into the final part of qualifying. There's no reason I should not be able to with the car that I am sitting in. As I said earlier, easily second fastest, only behind Red Bull. So now we need to get the throttle planted. I need to have my eyes on all the apexes, make sure I'm hitting everything, try to take a wider line into the bank to turn through to get a good exit, which I do. Just don't have that feel for the car that I felt like I did all the way back in Spa. I'm gonna head down a gear. Now we have another car on the outlap. It's another Alpine holding us up just a bit, and then there is the Sauber of Zhou Guanyu. Not sure where he sits at the moment. 13th, you can see up there. It's not what I'm focused on right now. So we're about 2.5 tenths up at this moment. Going into the chicane, we need to make sure we get nice and tidy. So first place for Charles Leclerc at the moment. But now we're going to head out of the final corner 4 tenths up on our lap. And that should see us through. Yeah, it's going to be 6th fastest. So that should be us through into Q3. Well, here at the end of Q2, Oscar Piastri tops the timing sheets by 15 milliseconds from Charles Leclerc. Then comes Max Verstappen. So the top 3 separated by less than 1/10 of a second. We make it through in 8th place, 6 tenths off of Piastri's time, and Nico Hulkenberg manages to squeeze through as well in his Haas, so good effort from him. Out in Q2 is Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Zhou Guanyu is in 14th place, so he is doing wonders in that Sauber car. So that will certainly help him in the standings if he makes his moves in tomorrow's Grand Prix. Let's see where we can put this Ferrari. I'm starting to come to me a little bit, but we're not going to be anywhere near the fight for pole. Well, now, as the afternoon starts to fall in Holland, so does the sun, and the clouds have started to roll in. No rain expected, but certainly is overcast, and that will be affecting track temperatures over the next 10 minutes. Towards the end of this qualifying session, this is another scrubbed set of soft compound tires, so it will not be our full pace just yet. We'll save the fresh set until the end for a final run of qualifying. And now we need to just get on the brakes a little more, just kind of tap them there. Doesn't slow us down quite enough, but does the job. So now we need to try to stay on the track. Currently 6/10 quicker than Lance Stroll's first sector time. And I need to focus. I think I was looking at my footage. I think the problem is I'm not using all of the track on the exits, and that is causing me to slide around just a little bit, and cost me a 1/10 or 2 for those long corners. And it also helps me get on the power sooner and open up the steering for a nice clean exit. So now we're going to power down this banked final corners. The car violently shakes once again. We're going to be the last to set a lap time, and it's going to be P6, and we split the two Mercedes. Well, the clouds have cleared just a little bit, and that's brought the track temperature back up a degree or two. So now, gonna head onto the main straight and start our final lap of qualifying here in Zandvoort.
Okay, 1 minute remaining, just 1 minute.
So at the moment, we're about a 10th, a little over a 10th up, but we go purple in the middle sector. However, we didn't improve in the first sector, so that will balance out. Looks like we'll be about 2/10 up, as now we're around the final corner. And we need to get up on the revs, and now we go up into 8th gear. We're going to be 2/10 up, and that is going to be, at the moment, P4. So we'll wait for everybody else to complete their laps, but that should be a decent qualifying position. Just trying to see, next across the line will be an Aston Martin, and then comes Max Verstappen, who goes even quicker, and then a Mercedes. Then comes Nico Hulkenberg. I'm just looking at the map here. As Hulkenberg crosses the line, and then comes one of the two McLarens. So not many improvements being made. As now we see Norris go even quicker, and we see our teammate go even quicker. So now that is going to be us, P6 for the Dutch Grand Prix. Well, here we go, end of Q3 for the Dutch Grand Prix, and that is Max Verstappen, of course. Who else would it be on pole position for his home Grand Prix? Then comes our teammate Charles Leclerc in second, then Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. What a GOAT. Absolutely amazing performance from the two-time world champion. They're still performing at a high level, 43 years old. Then comes Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, once again extremely close as they've been all season, and we just a couple milliseconds behind those two. In sixth place, then comes the two Mercedes, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, then Lance Stroll in his Aston Martin, then Nico Hulkenberg as expected. in 10th position. So we cars seem to have come back to us. You know, we've gone from being, what was it, 1.2 or 1.3 seconds off of our teammate in Q1 to now only being 0.2 off of Leclerc. So yeah, we're going to try to see what kind of moves we can make, but I think P6 should be secured as long as we stay out of trouble into turn 1. But yeah, I do have high hopes for this Grand Prix, and hopefully we can show Ferrari that even though we struggled throughout this weekend, we are still here to pick up the points and scraps for when we have a tough qualifying. So let's jump right into the Dutch Grand Prix for the first race since the summer break.
Welcome along then to the North Sea coast and to the Zandvoort circuit. We're 25 miles away from Amsterdam for today's Dutch Grand Prix. It's a race the great Jim Clark won on 4 occasions, leading for an astonishing total of 370 laps. Zandvoort circuit has 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout the 2.6 mile lap. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Mr. Monaco, Russell, Hamilton, Stroll, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Magnussen, Albon, Joe, Norris, Tsunoda, Perez, Sargent, Bottas, Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And alongside me in the commentary box today, former racing driver herself, Naomi Schiff. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not. Now, sadly, things didn't work out for them last time. It was a bad race. Question is, though, can they recover today?
It is true they had a really tough day in the office last time out, but they cannot dwell on that. It's so important to turn the page and start on a blank slate, because the more you dwell on that, the less it's going to push you in the right direction. So take some notes. Obviously, there's things to be learned, but move on.
Well, here we go, sat in the car, ready for the start of the Dutch Grand Prix, finally returning from the summer break, of course. So we're going to go with the soft to medium strategy. We have 36 brilliant laps ahead of us, and also Lando Norris takes a 10-place grid penalty, so obviously something with the engine there, taking an extra component. So yeah, that definitely throws a spanner in the works for McLaren. Now they only have one driver in the fight rather than both of them. So that promotes us up to P5, obviously. We're going to have Piastri and Alonso ahead of us. So let's see if we can make any moves down into turn 1.
Then the formation lap is underway right here in the Netherlands. The atmosphere, incredible. And the fans have come out in their tens of thousands for today's race.
I can see the Orange Army there in the stands cheering on pole sitter Max Verstappen. Everybody on the soft compound tires rather than Nico Hülkenberg. Trying an alternate strategy. Haas need to get some points on the board today.
So as all the cars reform the grid, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
So it looks like Hülkenberg going for the medium to hard strategy, so he'll be in a few laps later than the rest of the runners who are on soft compound tires. But now, as we pull into our P5 grid slot, as I said, behind Oscar Piastri and Fernando Alonso. Last year's race was a banger here. Let's see if we can have another one. As now it is going to be 5 red lights ready for the start of the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. and it is lights out, and away we go. It's a good reaction time from ourselves, and now we aren't really going to get the better of anybody ahead of us, but can we try to hook it up around the outside of Oscar Piastri? No, we can't, and George Russell looking for a move on us behind, but he's not going to make that stick, as now Fernando Alonso snatches P2 from our teammate Charles Leclerc ahead, heading into the second turn. Leclerc just had to back out there, as he knows he has the faster car, and he will be able to re-clear him, but Max Verstappen now already sailing off into the distance. Wasn't really ever a question if Max was going to win here today. He's been rapid. I mean, look at the lead he already has from Leclerc and Alonso scrapping.
That's a decent start. Good job.
But yeah, as I was saying, it was never really a question if Max Verstappen was going to win this Grand Prix here this weekend. Got something wrong with the engine energy store, it looks like. So we will. I noticed when we started the race, we only had 90% on our ERS battery pack. So clearly, showing signs of wear there. So we can fix that for the next race in Monza, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And now as we're going to head out of the final corner and cross the line for the first time at 36, Max Verstappen leads by nearly second, it looks like, from Fernando Alonso. Alonso finished second in last year's Grand Prix here. Can he do it again? Pierre Gasly finished third on that occasion, but with him starting last, doesn't look like that is a likely option, although anything can happen. There's no rain forecast for this weekend's race. But now it's just all about trying to stay with Oscar Piastri and, crucially, Charles Leclerc ahead. Well, now we have fallen out of the DRS range of Oscar Piastri ahead, which will put us under pressure from George Russell in his Mercedes car behind us, and that was not the best exit. I'm not sure why the car is so bad through that final corners. We're just losing so much time. The car is violently bouncing due to the banking on that corner. And now we're going to lose 2 positions to Russell and Stroll at once, and now there's Hamilton trying to go up our inside into turn 2. And do what Fernando Alonso did to our Ferrari teammate on lap 1, but it's not going to be anything to worry about this time around. And now we need to stay with Stroll and Russell. So now it looks like any battle with Piastri and Leclerc and Alonso have now faded away. Fernando does seem to be getting everything out of the car. Aston Martin have been working very well over the summer break, and they brought some upgrades this weekend, it looks like, because they are absolutely flying, currently running in 3rd and 6th. So shades of 2023 there, which is about where they were in the first few rounds of that season, with, of course, Alonso's incredible comeback. As you see how violently the car is bouncing, even with deploying battery, we don't get a good enough exit. But now Lance Stroll's going to try to go up the inside into turn 1 of George Russell. Can we stay behind to try to pick up the scraps? No, Russell cannot make, or Stroll, excuse me, cannot make that move stick on Russell this time around. But now we're going to try to get a better exit coming out of turn 3. Team want us to clear Lance Stroll before lap 11, so we got 5 laps to get this done. So we need to make sure we're staying. The key to this circuit is staying with the cars in front of you through the middle sector and the final sector. That way you can make it moves down into turn 1. It's not the greatest circuit for overtaking, but it is possible, as we've seen in the past. But it is especially difficult in this newer generation of Formula 1 cars. Back in the 60s and 70s, not really as much of an issue. But now the cars are just so much heavier and not as nimble, as now we get a terrible exit out of the final corner. It's going to put Lewis Hamilton hot on our tail. We're going to deploy as much battery as we can. And now Stroll is going to go for the move on the Mercedes driver once again. We're going to hold around the outside of Lewis, and we do keep hold of this 7th position. Now down into turn 3. Need to stay with him. I know I keep saying it, but it is absolutely crucial. So now Lewis is going to get an even better exit. And he's hot on our heels. So Stroll now, they're out of the second, 1 second gap, which is extremely crucial because we need DRS if we want any chance of staying with them. Just get a little bit of wheel spin there. But yeah, now we have fallen out of the DRS range. We're under a second now, but not when we cross that DRS detection line. We were over a second, but now at this next line we should be under a second. I would certainly hope so. And surely Russell will have to be looking at left, right in his mirrors for Lance Stroll, who will be coming at him down into turn 1 with the DRS. Certainly help with overtaking, moving the DRS line back so far compared to 21 and 22. And now Russell still is holding on to that position, but just by the skin of his teeth. Esteban Ocon up in 9th place, so great start from the Frenchman there. Of course, going to Haas next season in real life. Not sure where he'll go on our career mode, though I do have driver moves enabled, so silly season will certainly ensue. And now grip levels are going to fall away, says Mark. And I'll have to check what lap they want us in to the pit lane. Should be around lap 15 to 19. As, oh my goodness, the left side of the car taking an absolute beating there, as you can see. Just trying to focus on my apexes right now. We have 36% and 27% compared to 17 and 18 on the right side. So this being a clockwise circuit, as are most Formula 1 circuits, but with a lot of right-hand turns, it does put strain on the left-hand side of this car. And now Stroll is going to try to go around the outside this time on George Russell, and it looks like he might just have this move done now, as the young Canadian does move up into 5th place ahead of the Mercedes driver. And now Lewis once again is behind us, and he doesn't have any pressure from behind, so he can fully drive ahead. I'm driving in my mirrors at the moment. I'm more worried about not losing a place to Lewis than I am gaining a place to George, now ahead of us.
Let's use overtake and burn off some of this energy.
Mark there telling me I need to burn off some of my energy, which I will do all the way down this back straight, and I'm going to be as close as I possibly can to him coming out of the final corner. So I just need to get on that throttle just that little bit sooner, and then I think a move is pretty much a done deal here. Whoa, big incident there, as now I think Lewis went into the back of me. I'm not sure if he has any damage. I don't see anything. It was very close there. And whoa, lock up there from Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll locks up going into turn 1, and that's going to put Russell all over him. Stroll's lucky to hold on to that position. Well, riding on board here with Lance Stroll, he is ahead of Russell, but then he just turns the wheel and the inside locks up, and then luckily Russell isn't able to get a good enough run on him, but he's lucky to keep that position. Well, now that I had that incident into the final corner, I just absolutely have lost all sense of flow around the circuit now. I'm starting to find it again just that little bit more, but we're going to be out of DRS range. We'll have a little bit of slipstream, but Lewis Hamilton will be all over the back of us now down into turn 1. I'm not sure if I have any car damage. It doesn't look like it at all. And now Russell and Stroll are going to go side by side once again down into turn 1. I'm not trying to focus too much on that, as we don't get the team objective completed to clear Stroll. However, Russell does clear Stroll going into turn 1, and now we've got yellow flags out. Somebody has some issues. There's a car behind. Can't really tell. Oh, red flag. That's a red flag. Not sure what happened there, but now we're going to go back into the pit lane. Well, let's take a look here what caused that red flag. Valtteri Bottas going on the move with Yuki Tsunoda, and then I think Yuki just gets a little bit, too much on the power, and he spins right the way around, and then his teammate Daniel Ricciardo going around that blind corner tries to go around him, but then is stuck, and that causes a pile up of cars, and that's a red flag. Alright, so this is essentially a free pit stop now for everybody. So we won't see any pit stops at the end of this race, any scheduled pit stops at least. So we're going to go ahead and restart this race. This will help us try to get another good start in, get ahead of Russell or Stroll. And now it's going to be 5 red lights. Oh, whoa, was not ready for that. It's lights out and away we go. Instantly, was not ready for that quick of a lights out. Now we're going to go right the way around the outside of a Mercedes car. Lewis Hamilton behind us does get a great start. And now Pierre Gasly retiring from the session. Looks like he had the issue. And now that is us in P7. But now are we going to be able to get a look on Lewis Hamilton? Almost contact there. Don't really want to be making moves into that corner too often if you want to keep your front wing on your car. And then riding on board here with Pierre Gasly off the restart after that red flag, instantly his engine just goes. And Daniel Ricciardo gets a face full of God knows what as he ends up last. And that's Pierre Gasly out of the race. And he's going to pull off to the wayside up on the escape road into turn 1. Well, Gasly, right off the restart, had issues and he had to pull over to the wayside there. But they should have that car nice and cleaned up. It's out of the firing line, so there doesn't need to be a virtual safety car, or red flag or anything like that. Just double yellows. And now Lewis is pulling away just a little bit as he is getting held up by Lance Stroll. So that should bring us back into play here. My goal today is P5, but my goal and what our pace represents are two very different things. If we want to get P5, we have to be very lucky, and if it's not luck, then it has to be an immense amount of skill, as we might have to start conserving fuel to the end of the Grand Prix here. So I'm going to conserve fuel into the corners where I won't lose any time. And now Lewis is going to come out of the final corner with DRS to Lance Stroll, but Stroll, I believe, does have DRS on the car ahead of him, so that won't really do anything. It's Mercedes power versus Mercedes power. And there's nothing in it on that occasion for the 7-time world champion. But this time around, Max Verstappen is not romping off into the distance from our teammate Charles Leclerc, so could Leclerc still possibly be in the fight for the win here? As I just couldn't get the car rotated out of that chicane there. And now, as we go onto the exit curb, we still sit P7, of course. But then that is our teammate, I believe, taking the lead of this Grand Prix, or trying to at least. Him and Max Verstappen are going to go side by side, and yes, Charles Leclerc does take the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix here on lap 16, a handful of laps after the red flag restart. So that's good news for us, Ferrari meaning. And so that is Alonso ahead of Stroll, ahead of Hamilton. Then comes ourselves, and Kevin Magnussen running P9. So good stuff from the Haas driver. Looks like he might be the one to score points here today, rather than Nico Hülkenberg, who's fallen down massively. He's now down behind the Saubers. But I think if we play our cards right, we might be able to get a few more positions before the end of this Grand Prix. Now here comes George Russell on us into the chicane, but there's nothing in it on that occasion. But that is going to lose us quite a bit of time to Lewis. Are we still going to be in the DRS zone? Yes, we are. Thank goodness for that. And then we need to stay on this racing line as the car, again, violently shaking through the final corner. It's so frustrating. And now the two Aston Martins are going to go side by side as Lance Stroll going on a move on his far more experienced teammate Fernando Alonso, who just seems to be losing confidence lap after lap. However, Alonso does hold the position that time around, but there was a lockup from one of the cars ahead, not sure who. So we're just kind of hanging back and biding our time and seeing if we can pick up any scraps. Patience is definitely a virtue here at this track, and we're going to have to play the waiting game. Well, now heading into the final corner, we are extremely close to the back of Lewis Hamilton, closer than he is to the back of Lance Stroll. So we're going to have that ultra slipstream here, and now we need to force him to defend the inside, as Lance Stroll can't find a way around his teammate, but we are certainly going to find a way around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. We're able to get on the throttle a lot sooner than he is and open up the steering wheel. Now that's us into 6th place, so our pace is certainly starting to come to us. We've been managing our tires to a level that the team are happy with, and now we need to focus on getting past these two Aston Martins. Well, Max Verstappen has now retaken the lead of this Dutch Grand Prix here on lap 19 of 36. Well, over the past couple of laps, slowly but surely, we've been gaining on Alonso and Stroll ahead, who are part of this whole train in the top 5 that seems to be pulling away due to the DRS. But we also had a few great lap times that have pulled us away from Russell and Hamilton, who've been scrapping, so that has certainly been on our side. But looking at the times, it seems they're only pulling away ahead through the DRS zones, and that's just losing us a couple of tenths per lap. So that's why we're not really gaining as much as we would like, but I'm pushing to the maximum tire wear. Not looking too terrible. We've got about 11 laps to go. But now the key thing is just not making any mistakes to the end of the Grand Prix. We've got some more yellow flags out. Looks like that might be a Williams or an Alpine behind. Another red flag. That's another red flag. So I think a car spun and there's a pileup down at the chicane. Well, let's take a look at what caused the second red flag. Another Alpine having issues in the form of Esteban Ocon down into the chicane. I think he gets a little bit. Yep, there he goes. Too trigger happy. And then that causes a pileup of cars. Zhou Guanyu manages to find his way around, as does Valtteri Bottas. But then there's a pileup, and that's another red flag. So now that's going to be another chance to get a good restart. We've got 8 laps to go on a brand new set of the soft compound tires. Let's do this thing. As now we're going to have 5 red lights ready to go once again for the Dutch Grand Prix. Is third time going to be the charm? It's lights out. And away we go. Get a whole lot of wheel spin off the start here, and now the two Aston Martins are going to go at it. There's almost contact. Oh, that's not Aston Martin, that's George Russell, excuse me. And now Lance Stroll, we're going to have the inside line going into 2, as there's a little bit of contact there with Lance, as well as some with Russell into turn 1 as well. And now Lance is going to just inch ahead of us. Now we're not going to have ourselves in the same predicament we have been in. We are actually going to make the move this time around. I think I might have gone off the track there onto an escape road, but we're not going to talk about that, as I almost forced Lance Stroll off the circuit completely there. Gave him a car's width and nothing else off the exit. And now we need to stay, of course, with Russell ahead. That is Charles Leclerc who leads. For Max Verstappen, Piastri, Alonso, then Russell, and then ourselves, of course, in P6. So that's your top 5. So we are exactly where we were.
All of our tyre pressure data is currently reading 0. Assuming they still look inflated to you, we're going to guess that it's just a bad sensor. Shouldn't be anything to worry about.
Alright, so bad sensor there for the team, so they can't really see my tire wear. So that's not good news for them. But now we are falling away from Russell at an alarming rate. We are now out of that second, as DRS has enabled this lap, and we cannot be having that. We're on a brand new set of tires, so there should be no reason why we are losing so much time. We got 6 laps. Well, with each lap that goes by, I'm starting to lose more and more hope that we are going to get anything better than P6. It's just so frustrating knowing that you have the talent and drivability to get yourself higher up the field, but then your car setup is just really holding you back. At the moment, it seems we're not getting enough acceleration. I have way too much wing, as I was saying, far too much downforce on this car. And I also noticed Valtteri Bottas is just behind the two behind us. I believe Bottas is actually in 10th, so Sauber on to score a point, if I am not mistaken. Although I very well could be. Actually, I think that might be an Alpine behind. the two Mercedes cars. But yeah, I'm just starting to lose some hope here. I'm still pushing to the max, but the Mercedes are absolutely up my gearbox, and at the moment I'm not really gaining anything. I was there for a while, but the DRS train is too powerful. I'm just saying, if I was in the DRS, I would be able to stay with that train so much better. But right now Charles Leclerc does lead still from Max Verstappen. There's a little bit of a lockup there from Charles Leclerc. That is Leclerc from the lead of the race. Had a lockup just as I was saying that our teammate was leading the race. Oh, he just has a lockup, gets into the gravel trap, past goes Verstappen, past goes Piastri, and then past goes Alonso. So heartbreak for Charles Leclerc. Well, that is complete and utter heartbreak, as I say, for Charles Leclerc, who was leading the race, and now we're going to come across the line to start the final lap. So he was on the penultimate lap, and he was on course to win this race, and now you can just see how fast things change, and now we are in the DRS range, but it is too late. I don't think we'll be able to make a move down the back straight. Leclerc has got all out of shape, so that is Alonso up into P3 now. So the battle for the podium is on. We are going to try to stay as well as we can with George, but it might be for nothing. If this had happened a lap earlier, this would have been perfect. But unfortunately, it did have to happen on the penultimate lap of this race, as now we're going to have one final chance to get past Russell in the DRS zone. However, it doesn't look like we're going to have quite enough, but we have just been saving up a little bit of battery to see what we can do down towards the line. And now heading into the final corner, Max Verstappen is going to cross the line to win the Dutch Grand Prix for a 4th year in a row. Then comes Oscar Piastri, and then Fernando Alonso back on the podium, and then Oscar Piastri.
We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again, because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
And you can just see how much this means to the fans as well. The energy that they were giving the driver all day today. A race win at home feels like 10 race wins elsewhere.
Well, Max Verstappen very happy about his home win then. Again.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
Well, Max Verstappen wins his home Grand Prix for a 4th year in a row from Oscar Piastri, and Fernando Alonso finally back on the podium for Aston Martin. It was a great race for them this weekend. It just, bittersweet emotions. Well, actually completely bitter on our side, because Leclerc obviously had that win sealed up through red flags, or 2 red flags, 3 restarts.
It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, Leclerc having that lockup brought him down to P4, and that really pisses me off, because if we would have just been able to get our selves in check, we could have passed Russell there. I'm being completely honest, it was completely my fault. I wasn't quick enough at the end there. I was pushing far too hard, and the moment managed to escape us. Max Verstappen also has the fastest lap of the race, so that is going to be an extra point for him as well. So leaving here with a lowly 20 points for Ferrari. So in other news, Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas scoring points. What a race this was for Kick Sauber. I believe that's their first points of the season as well. Oh wait, no, it's not. No, I guess Sauber had scored points. I have a bad memory, but so that does keep Sauber in 8th. Looks like they were level with Williams, but now that has changed the tide there. We still lead the constructor standings, but only by 34 points. And the driver standings, Max Verstappen still leads by 54 points from our teammate Charles Leclerc. But yeah, as I say, that really pissed me off at the end there, because we should have won this race with Leclerc, and I should have been in 5th past Russell. But hopefully next time out in Monza we can do a lot better and make sure our setup is better optimized. We seem to be pretty quick down the straights. when the car's in the right window. So yeah, that's all for this video. And I'll see you guys next time out at the Temple of Speed in Monza.